homemade. Why not from basic from
I did too.
Which is very close to you.
And I said, does she just mix or whatever?
Local second.
Oh my God, who knew?
I went up in the.
Yeah, I mean, inside for. Every, you know.
I know.
I know.
Okay, yeah.
And I said.
You learn something new every day. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But also like the meal, like meal prep and that, like that's. Well, thank God.
My granddaughter. Engaged, and her fiance, her. Whatever. They decided to. Well, they tested it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So between that,
And
but she.
yeah, if you, I mean, like it becomes part of your, it becomes your whole.
I know, like I try not to eat processed food.
You just don't pay.
You know, I try to eat food like when it's original.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what I try to do.
All right, my friends, how's everyone doing? Yeah, we're ready to roll.
Yeah.
That was very nice, yes.
I'm so glad you came.
Oh, the clean. Space.
Amazing, right?
Oh, my.
Okay, hello, how's everybody doing?
Both.
Tove, I like that.
Yes, it is, well, let's do our blessing for the city of Torah and then we'll get it. I just wanted to start with brachos. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to study words of Torah.
Before you take note, let me. You grab a picture of it.
Sure.
Because let's see.
Good, okay. So, before we start, I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity to check in. It's a little spiritual check-in, just acknowledging sort of where we are in our world today, where we are as people of Am Yisrael, members of the people of Israel. Just a sort of spiritual check-in to just make sure how everyone is doing. I just wanted to give us that opportunity. It's a lot to process and a lot to carry. It is with great cautious optimism, trepidation, fear, holding of breath, immense, emotion. Every breath we take sort of leading us as we count down sort of moments and hours that lead us, God willing, as the 72 hours has now commenced to when our people, God willing, will be redeemed and brought home. I just wanted us to have this moment, just to have this time. We are people who come together every week to study the words of our Torah, who come together every week to unfold and discover and to share the story of our people. A story that has followed us for generations, from creation to a journey that Abraham said, Hineni, to our people ending up following Joseph into Egypt, who dwelled there and became enslaved there, who then were redeemed with an outstretched arm by the Lord our God, and through Moses's leadership brought us out of darkness, crossing the sea and into the desert to begin a journey to unfold who we would become as a free people and as a people looking towards inheriting a promise. And then generations later, that promise becoming a reality and the state of Israel being born. And then here we are, right? Like every week we uncover this story. It's our story. And our story now has undergone another chapter of immense difficulty for the past 2 years of incredible pain. And I was just thinking about it as we're on this Shabbat, a Shabbat that we always pray for the state of Israel, we pray for our hostages. And this Shabbat has a different feel to it. Not, I don't want to say completely different, because I am, you know me, like highly cautious and superstitious and all those things. But also there is a sparkle and a glimmer, and seeing and following our people in Israel who are overwhelmed with this idea that there is some sort of time and date now is profound. So I just want to give you that space before we dive into the Parsha. And it's interesting, this week's Parsha is we take a break from the traditional cycle of the reading and we go back to the book of Exodus, because we're now Sukkot, and so there's special Torah readings for the festivals. And so on Chol Hamoed Sukkot and Shabbat morning, we'll go back to the book of Exodus, chapter 33 and chapter 34. And we read a really interesting moment in our story. It's post the receiving of the 10 commandments. It's following the incident of the golden calf. And it's a very tender moment. It's a tender moment between Moses and God. And so because we are all tender right now, and we are all fragile right now, I just thought it was important to sort of name that and recognize that and give space to anyone who would like to share sort of what they're feeling, and so that we are, since we're in community together.
I think it's difficult. I really do. I found you identify the feelings, emotions, optimism, skepticism. I think you did the right as well. Thank you for doing that. I really can.
Of course. Thank you. Anyone else?
There.
Tara?
My sister texted me yesterday and she's like, how are you feeling? Given me. And I said cautiously optimistic. But there's a part of me that doesn't want to be salty and bitter, like I don't believe it yet, but there's a part of me that's like, we've been paying this for so long. So I guess I found that cautiously optimistic. It was interesting because when I was my very first few weeks of my introduction to Judaism class, October 7th. And every week before we did our Zoom to learn, we did this, like, how is everyone doing change? And I really appreciate that, having the knowledge.
Good, beautiful. Lauren?
That's beautiful. I'm feeling overwhelmed with emails and people, not from personal emails, just from different sources and different historical, I don't know how they got my number or years and years, but it's hard to, I like to be here because it all comes together for me. But, you know, there's a lot of different feelings, and so it's hard for me to get in touch with my own because I'm listening to so many other people.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you. I like that honesty is so powerful, right? Like, I think we oftentimes, depending on where we are and what's happening in the world, we do feel that sense of like, where am I?
Yeah.
Right? Thank you. That's actually.
Scared. First, that it won't work out, but then that if it does, Israel's responsible for securing an area where, regardless of whether or not Hamas and the other groups disarm, there's gonna be insurgency.
Who's gonna be what?
Insurgency, just historically, when Israel last was in charge of security there was insurgency, and Israeli soldiers die on a regular basis, not so much because they were fighting, but because terrorists are terrorists. And so I'm scared of that, but I also think Hamas might be done. And they might be, everyone might just be done, because what they've been fighting for basically since everyone wasn't whether it started, was a Palestinian state, and they more or less got what they asked for. So I'm hopeful that given that, no, it was a terrible way to get it, but given they got what they've been fighting for, maybe they're actually done.
You think they're getting a Palestinian state?
I think they're getting the start of one. An Arab government's finally getting involved and overseeing, that's what it would have taken for years. They wouldn't do it. And now they are, so. For the first time. They might be getting what they want, which is terrible, it's terrible, but.
Thank you for sharing how you feel. Anyone else wanna share how they feel?
I'm hopeful, but also somewhat fearful of the 72-hour period, in the sense that those unfortunate souls who may presume to have been left in good earth may not be able to be recovered. That's my biggest fear, but my big hope is that there looks like a mechanism finally perhaps to bring peace to the entire region. It's gonna take time, it's gonna take a collection of a group of states to and countries to help give Israel the peace that they need and the peace that they want and deserve.
Thank you.
Desperately.
Thank you. So thank you all for sharing. I appreciate you feeling safe, a safe space to share. And keep talking, keep sharing. It's important as we sort of navigate the next few days, God willing, a time of redemption and a time of welcoming home. Okay, let's dive into our Parsha Chol Hamoed Sukkot. We're back in time, as I mentioned very briefly, but let's set full context. All right, so Exodus chapter 33, if you have the book in front of you. Exodus, Shemot, book of Exodus, chapter 33, we begin with verse 12. That's where the Parsha begins this week. Okay, and the Israelites have crossed the Red Sea, they've stood at the base of Mount Sinai, they've received the 10 commandments. They have experienced the voice in a whisper, that moment, thunder and lightning, and received the Aseret Dibrot, the 10 utterances, which we know as the 10 commandments. And then Moses lingers, and Moses is atop the mountain for a long time, 40 days, and the people become frightened, scared, and they start to become anxious once again. And they don't see the divine, that frightens them. They don't see Moses, their leader, that frightens them. And so they reach out to Aaron to help them construct a divine, physical, divine structure that they had been accustomed to seeing in Egypt. This notion that gods are tangible and physical. And so they constructed the golden calf. Moses sees what happens. He holds the 10 commandments in his rage and his anger. He breaks the 10 commandments and then has to go back up to God and speak to God. In what I really believe this moment of Torah is so profound. It is incredibly raw and vulnerable. It is a moment between Moses and God that is unlike any of their other interactions in the course of their story. And so I want us to read through, we're going to read the entire section. It's Exodus 33, verse 12 through Exodus 24, verse 26. I want us to read the whole story. As we're reading it, I want you in your mind, this was a chosen text that we read as a people on this holiday of Sukkot, So again, I want you to think about as we're reading, one of the things to place in the back of your mind that we're gonna focus on is, why is this the Parsha that we read on the Shabbat morning of Sukkot? Where are the intersection points? Where are the common overlap thematics that you see or that you are interpreting as we read? And that will be something that we dive into. I also want you to think about as we're reading, what does this text teach us or suggest to us about what it means theologically to be in a relationship with God? What does this mean? Who is God? What is God? And so there's these theological overtones, there are these undertones thematically for Sukkot that I want us to think about. They're not overt, so we have to pay attention and we have to think about why this text is chosen. Okay, good. All right, let's do it. Okay, Vayomer Moshe el Adonai, Moses said to God, see, you say to me, lead this people forward, but you have not made known to me whom you will send with me. Further, you said, I have singled you out by name, and you have indeed gained my favor. Now, if I have truly gained your favor, pray, let me know your ways, Moses is saying. Let me know your ways, God, that I may know you and continue in your favor. Consider too that this nation is your people. And God said, I will go in the lead, and I will lighten your burden. And he replied, unless you go in the lead, do not make us leave this place. For how shall it be known that your people have gained your favor unless you go with us, so that we may be distinguished, your people and I, from every people on the face of the earth? And God said to Moses, I will also do this thing that you've asked, for you have truly gained my favor, and I have singled you out by name. I'm going to stop there for a second. What's happening now in this interaction between Moses and God? What is Moses asking of God, and how is God responding?
Moses wants some guidance, some help, knowing what God wants and doesn't want. Up to this point, he's just been like wandering the desert. He doesn't know what God's laws are, what God's rules are, how God wants the people to act. And he's saying, I need something. I need to know how to be a good person and stay good in your eyes.
Okay, I want to be very nice. I just want to make a little tweak. Okay, they have received the commandments. They have an understanding of what it means, right? Moses has an understanding here of what it means to lead. But what is I think there's some, I want to push us a little bit further here, okay? What is Moses asking of God?
Partnership, help support.
Lead me, right? Go out in front of us and lead us, right? God says, okay, I'll go out in the lead and I'll lighten your burden. But Moses says something here in 15, and he replies, unless you go in the lead, don't make us leave this place. If you go, it's not enough, God, to say that we'll walk together. I'm asking you, God, to go out in front of us, to truly lead us, that we need more of that. Look how the people need that, God, right? Like, imagine where Moses is, like, place ourselves in his perspective here. The people have just built this calf after they just received the 10 commandments. Moses is responding to what just happened. He also pleads with God not to destroy them, right? That let's give them a second chance. Let's try this again. And what is Moses saying? We need more. It's not enough to just say you're with us. It's not enough just to hand us these commandments. You know what, God? I didn't think of that either, but here I am now in this place at this time after what we've just experienced, what I see from this people. For Moses too, he's learning as a leader who these people are and what they need, right? He's not just, a GPS navigator to get them to the next place, right? And I even think Moses is acknowledging that too. It's gonna require more than you just telling me to go to the next place and dwell, and then get up and go to the next place. Like, this is going to take more. And I need you to be out front on this. I need you to be present and actively engaged with us. I need more of your presence, right? Yeah.
Why would God instinctively know that? Why does he have to be asked?
Yeah,
Or why does Moses have to ask?
right. Isn't that beautiful?
Okay,
It is. Marcia says, why does Moses have to ask God? Shouldn't God instinctively know that? Now, I'm gonna pause for a second. Shouldn't my partner instinctively know what I need? There you started laughing.
Get it.
But think about that. Think about the assumptions and the expectations we make of others. And I'm not saying it from a negative place, right? Well, we've been married or we've been in a relationship or we've been together or we've been friends for X amount of years. They know me better than anyone or what. Should I have to ask?
Yeah, but God is different.
Is God different? Is the teaching here what is it teaching us? So you can look at it from the shot level, like, shouldn't God know? Yeah, sure, God should know, God knows everything, okay,
It's just like ask and you shall receive.
maybe. But what is it, but you know what I think it's teaching us, I think it's multiple levels, right? The shot level, the surface level of text is, yeah, of course, God knows, so God says, okay, I'll lead you, okay. But what's the underlying message that the Torah is trying to teach us?
That we can look outside of ourselves for help, but we have to ask. It takes an action, it takes an effort on our part to reach out for help and not to think that we can be it all. And then also to know that God is there if we need God.
The sages are gonna ask the same question. The sages are gonna respond very similarly. Cause the sages are gonna say, similar to you guys, like, well, like, of course, right? Like, and why Moses shouldn't have to ask, or God was just waiting for Moses to ask, right? But God knew he was gonna lead them, right? But the sages make a point to say there are different moments in our lives where the relationship between us and the divine requires more. Requires more from us, and requires more from God. There are moments when God will be withdrawn and we need to seek God out and pull God into us. There have been moments when God is right there in front of us, but we are withdrawn and we back out, right? And God pulls us in, right? There are moments, if we think about our own relationship, not just the relationship between us and the divine, but the relationships that we have, which are modeled after the relationship we have with the divine. That's what it means to be B'Tselem Elohim, in the likeness and the image of God. Now, when you love, the way that we show our love for God, you shall love you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, do all of these things. All of the things that we are to do, actually the interaction between me and other human beings, when I do that in God's way is when I'm in the most connected with the divine. So here in this moment, it's a small little moment, but I think it is quite rich in the sense that Moses says to God, it's not enough to just be here. It's not just enough that you're gonna tell us that you're gonna do it. You need to be out front. You need to be out front for us. And if you're not, we'll stay. We'll stay right here. Don't make us leave. Tara,
Patty was first.
Maddie.
Could it be that what happened prior, this interaction with the people thinking that they need a physical symbol, and Moses coming back down and in his rage throwing the two tablets, could it be not just a human thing that happened, but more like these things occur so we are aware of our own limitations? And that we do need God, because if we get too heady about it, people start thinking they can be independently, self-sufficient. But make us aware that there is God and we need God's help at times.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely that's a beautiful insight into that. I also think here too is what Moses is saying is that, yes, I have gained your favor, God, but I'm reminding you that this entire nation is also your people. Right? And we have to acknowledge that the relationship that we have and the relationship that we all have, there are different levels of those interactions and those relationships. And they need more I'm noticing, God, that they need more. I'm the one that gets to sit up here with you on this mountain. Right? So come down, lead amongst the people. It's like such a beautiful, like, it's just a beautiful moment between God and Moses, where Moses is very honest with God to say, I have this blessing, this honor, this luxury of actually being able to sit here with you and to be in this. I met you at the burning bush, right? We've hung out together in front of Pharaoh. Like we have this really intimate relationship that they don't necessarily have. It's not enough to just do thunder and lightning and splitting of seas. It's the small intimate moments that also matter. And what they're telling us by their behavior is that they need more, they need you.
Yeah.
Right there with them, right? It's when I think about like what we do together every week and thinking about the portion. It's so important that we see this text not as something that was or that once happened, but that the text is continuously teaching us something about our own lives here in this moment, about how we can live our lives according to Torah and live our lives through seeing the world through a Jewish lens. This is one of these like small little moments that has incredible learning for us about how we lead and live in our own lives.
I think there's also, for me personally, that petition,
Mm-hmm.
a human petition to God, for whatever the petition may be, that God listens. It's like, okay, this is magnet, this is humongous, but personal petitions. If we didn't believe that there was a listening, then there wouldn't be any talking or praying.
Yeah,
you know.
right, and then it's both. That's beautiful, right? Okay, let's keep going. Verse 18. Okay, amazing. Vayomer hara'eni na et vodecha. And Moses says, oh, let me behold your presence. Just imagine for a moment, like, it's so beautiful, right? Like, they're just on the top of this mountain, and Moses says, let me behold your presence. And God answers, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim before you the name of Adonai and the grace that I grant and the compassion that I show. Vayomer lo tuchal lirot et panai, but you cannot see my face. Ki lo yirani ha'adam b'chai, for a human being may not see me and live. Vayomer Adonai, and God said, see, there is a place near me. Station yourself on the rock. Okay, so we're gonna pause there for a second. What are your reflections up until this moment? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What stands out for you?
You're negotiating compromise.
Okay, so there's a discussion here. And okay, some sort of a negotiation, Marshall Fields, okay. What else?
And then, me, again, that grace that I grant, compassion that I show is who I am.
Okay, all right, so that the physicality is not but it's my grace, my compassion, what I show, what I do, that's how you see me. Okay, beautiful.
Well, I had my notebook, but I went back to it and, Moses was pretty upset. He's angry. They just went through the assignment and people said, as God has spoken, we shall do. And then he goes up there to give the Torah, comes down, there's a calf. And he sees these beautiful sapphire tablets and he smashes, angry, and God's like, say the word, or I will smite these people. And he's beseeching God how to have, I guess, understanding that human fallibility, there's these new people, there's hiccups along the way, they're gonna make mistakes. And now you see these two who have such a heavy investment and they're like, okay, they're the leaders and now they're talking, there's a negotiation, there's synergy, there's, he didn't get to see his face. So he saw his shoulder, his back, and then he had to wear a mask as his face shines. To me, it's that intimacy of when they have this relationship here. And that's something, I think this is that high point, is at the end of the very, very end of Deuteronomy. He's still with Moses. But here it's that, this, after this golden calf incident, where there's, where there's darkness, you see this light. And I think this is the kind of people Moses is teaching on behalf, and then also in that conversation, they're having.
Okay, beautiful.
I didn't get a lesson. In that conversation, what you said. I didn't get your lesson.
I
In that
said-
conversation.
I said.
They're having an intimate moment.
They're in intimate conversation, it's like a segue.
Okay, so he says to Moses, go sit and station yourself on this rock. And as my presence passes by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take my hand away and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. Ooh. Who here has read this section before? Be good. All right, so it's like half. Okay. So for those of you who have not read this section before, what catches you? What stands out for you? What questions come from within you?
Was have or have not read the section before?
Have not.
It sounds like he's almost human in a way.
Yeah, right? So there's this anthropomorphization of God, right? These human elements. My hand, my back, you cannot see my face, right? All of these elements, okay? Good.
Why though, would he not why would God want you to see his face?
Okay, right. So one of the natural questions is why doesn't God want Moses to see your face? Or why can no human being see God's face? Okay, great. What else? All right, those for who have read, what else stands out for you? Any other questions that arise that maybe you hadn't thought about before?
He's up on the mountain. Those whole times 40 days, and he didn't see his face before. And now it's like, what's changed this?
Okay, for Moses, what has changed?
Yes.
Why now? Why now is Moses asking this? Why is this important to him? This is not the first time he's had a conversation with God, right? But why now? What has changed for Moses? Okay, beautiful. What else? I find it fascinating that the rock is here. This is way before the issue, not way before, we've already had a few rock incidences, but this isn't the final rock incident. But there's this rock incident, and then we also have Sur Yisrael, God is a rock. Right, so all of a sudden we have this emergence of a rock, we have these human elements to God, we have Moses we have Moses demanding that to see God, to see these elements, to see God's face, right? Hand, back, my compassion, my grace, my essence, my ruach, my spirit's gonna pass before you, and that will suffice. That's how you will know I am here, okay?
So what do you think about that, Rob?
I don't know.
So what you said?
I don't know what I think about it yet,
Think about it.
right? Like, we don't know. We don't know if it's meaningful or not. Maybe it's just, it is, right? Maybe that's just a way to designate where he is. Maybe it's a stability piece, right? If we think about, when we think about God as a rock, we've talked about it, but like, there is that stability piece, that firmness, that tangibility, that eternal nature of the rock. That the rock in and of itself holds significance. And for Moses to be placed there, station yourself, also means you can, like, I imagine, and there's been beautiful paintings painted of this moment throughout our history, that of like Moses clinging to that rock, like, cause the force of God's presence coming by Moses, it's like he needed something to hold on to. Which I think for me, also, there's such power in holding the rock. Right? If you participated in the rock ritual over the holidays, you know the feel of holding that rock and experiencing the weight of it, right? So there's all these really beautiful elements that are just in these few verses. And I also think it's just so fascinating that God in this moment is describing God's self for Moses, almost as if the way that Moses needs and hopes that he could see God in that way, as in that human form. Just like the people needed it, they constructed the golden calf. Moses in that moment needed something tangible needed something physical, needed something that he could understand. There's a real vulnerability and authenticity here and honesty for Moses. That after this incident, it's not after the tremendous moment of the giving of Torah that Moses needed to see God. It's in this moment, in this vulnerable moment, in this moment of pain, of anger, of uncertainty, of demanding something of God. Be present and lead us. We need more of you. We need your presence. And it's not enough just to hear you. I need something more from you too. It's a really magnificent moment in the evolution of Moses too, personally. When we first meet Moses and when Moses first meets God, it's in this burning bush. And what Moses demands of God in that moment is, how will I know you? Like, how should I know you? Meaning, what is your name? Right? And right, how God says, I will be what I
am.
right, I am who I am, right? For Moses needed to say to the people, they're gonna ask me what your name is. Like, who are you? Right? Here, God is saying, you know what? And Moses is saying, you know what? I'm noticing this is another one of those moments. They need something, and you know what? I do too. I'm feeling that sense of uncertainty. I'm feeling that I need something more from you in this moment. And God responds in language that Moses can understand. You cannot see my face. It may not even be that God has a face, but God is using words that Moses can understand. My hand will, right? You will see my back. And it may just be the shape of the wind of the spirit, but whatever it is, it's going to be a back because that's what Moses can understand. It's really beautiful if you think about it. The idea that God transforms God's language into the language that Moses can understand and feel comforted by. Yeah.
I never knew this. What I'm asking, does Moses hear God's voice as if someone is talking to him? Or does Moses hear God's voice within
It's a beautiful question.
within his head? I mean, I'm just wondering if there is an out loud or an internal communication.
When we hear God's voice, we hear it ourselves too. And we hear it within. But we've heard God's voice. We don't hear it out loud, but we hear it within us. And I think that's how Moses hears it. He hears it within. God communicates differently, not through voice, but through, it gets through to you.
Jack, that's beautiful.
Throughout the Torah, we hear that God communicates with Moses face to face. Undoubtedly, this contradicts that, but the idiom to communicate from face to face is that he doesn't appear to Moses via a dream or anything, but he actually speaks to Moses by communicating, no matter how he does it, at the time of the question.
Absolutely. Right? Like that's exactly right. Like panim al panim, like face to face with God, right? Exactly right. But that's the idea that there is a closeness and there's a presence. And here we learn that it's that this presence is that there is this idea. I think what takes this to the next level is that God's using that language to describe for Moses, to describe God's self to Moses in ways that Moses can comprehend. So it's not just a dialogue, which God and Moses communicate face to face, meaning that to describe the closeness of their relationship and how they communicate with one another. I love this idea, Maddie. We don't know, right? Like, there's not it's not like that Moses describes that interaction. But I think it's actually, it's a really beautiful idea to say to ourselves, like, how do, like Bobby said, like, how do we hear God's voice? But even for Moses, it may be, and it may change during different moments. It may change when he's standing amongst the people, that he hears it as a whisper. He may hear it on top of the mountain out loud. He may hear it just in his heart, right? We don't know. But I think the evolution, I think we don't know, because I think it actually lends for us the possibility of it being multiple options and opportunities to hear God's voice for us in many different ways. That if God only communicated in one way and we don't hear it that way, then does that mean God's not communicating with us? Or the idea that Moses and that we and the people of Israel could hear the voice as a whisper in silence within, through an expression, through that spirit, Ruach Elohim, that for us, as we're reading this, meaning, oh, that means I do experience the divine and hear the divine voice.
Can I share a story about that?
Yes, you know.
Okay. I would say in my later years, as I've become more mature as an adult, I've been more apt to pray or to ask for things. But what has happened to me when I say it sincerely and really mean what I want, not what I want, what I would like for, to transpire. I've had some amazing responses, but I've had it through messengers. Someone would say something to me, and it would be so coincidental to what I put out there. So it's a messenger from some other person, or I would say sometimes an angel, something would happen. And that would be a response. And I don't know if that ever happened to anybody else, but I had that happen to me quite a few times.
Give an example.
I'm sorry?
You wanna give an example?
Yes, I will give an example. Someone I live in a condo, and sometimes there are difficult people or whatever. And someone once said to me something that was really not nice. And you can't help but be like wondering why and what. And one day I met this man who was a neighbor who I barely had a conversation with. I would come in the elevator, and the elevator's about a minute. And he turns to me and he said, I just want to tell you something. You are really a very decent person. I wanted to let you know that. Now, is that a coincidence or a God incidence? I don't know. But why would this person say this to me, who's not really intimate with me, or beyond a very casual acquaintance? That's one story. I have more. I don't want to take up.
I want to hear it later, but here's what I want to do. No, I do. But here's what I want to do. So because we took this turn, and I think it's perfect, because it leads perfectly into the sources.
Okay.
Into the sources. I wanted us to dive into this connection with God and our interaction with God, and what does that mean, and what does that Moses?
How are
Right?
you?
Oh,
did you? How much were they up?
I just mute them. I can mute them. See, I have that power, Bobby, you don't.
Thank you. I can't do, I wish I could.
I get to, that's my joy, yeah. Okay, so Martin Buber says this: when two people relate to each other authentically and humanly, God is the electricity that surges between them.
That is so great. I love that.
I love that. God is the electricity that surges between them. Right?
It gives me goosebumps.
Doesn't it? It's really powerful. And if we think about this moment, in the text, right? When we think about Moses and the people, right? They're like two human beings. sort of, right? Like this idea that Moses, and then you have the group of people. And Moses' desire and their desire to see, understand, and be in relationship and have a closeness with the divine. What Buber is saying is when we actually relate to each other authentically and humanly, when we are at our most human and we're reacting with someone else, that energy and that electricity that surges between you that we feel, that is God. That is that divine energy. That's great. Right? Like, wow, what an amazing thing. What an amazing perspective and an outlook to have.
It's also like another word for love.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Because it's the same electricity kind of thing when you relate to another person that way.
Yeah, exactly. Marsha.
Just a quick little story. I was in the hospital this past week, and, I had a roommate. And here I am in the Yom Kippur, and I think, oh boy, this is it, my fate is sealed, I'm like, I'm done now. Oh yeah, I was sick. But she had just come out of surgery, and in the middle of the night, she was vexing and not feeling good. So I said, you want a cold schmutty? And I'm wiping her brow and wiping the back of her neck. And I realized I couldn't, because I was here for like 5 days, that's a long.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, except I don't have a voice or something. But I really was doing so much thinking about that we were just put together in this room to help each other.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously, I mean, and I was, her husband was here, her husband's Israeli, and the nurse too. That's amazing. And it was just, we all got together in such a great way to help one another.
Wow, God was in the room.
Absolutely, no doubt. No doubt,
Wow.
it's really amazing. If you could say you have a good hospital experience, and I'm sick, I had a good hospital experience.
Next time, God, hopefully there's not a next time, but will you let me know when you're in the hospital next time? I'll come and visit you.
Yeah, I felt that. And I said, I must have done a real good job doing elbow. Because look how this is working out for them.
Wait. Okay, thank God you're here. Thank God you're well.
Can you go back to the other screen for a moment?
Of
if
course
it's
I can.
okay? When I read this, what I read for me again is that piece of God that's in us, that godly energy, godly spirit, godly, we can only be there when we're authentic. Cause I know during high holidays, I'm gonna cry. During the high holidays, I said to you in class, maybe it wasn't this class, I felt my ego left.
Yeah.
And I felt so authentic.
Yeah.
That old BS that I put on top of myself. And that's what it feels like when I read that.
That is gorgeous. Thank you. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Here's what Mordecai Kaplan says. Another amazing philosopher in our tradition. To believe in God means to accept life on the assumption that it harbors conditions in the outer world and drives in the human spirit, which together impel man to transcend himself. To believe in God means to take for granted that it is man's destiny to rise above the brute and to eliminate all forms of violence and exploitation from human society. In brief, God is the power in the cosmos that gives human life the direction that enables the human being to reflect the image of God. What does that mean to you?
I don't know.
I get that one.
God is the power in the cosmos that gives human life the direction that enables the human being to reflect the image of God.
Well, if we are created in the image of God, the way we act in the world reflects what God is. Because if we act with intention and authenticity and goodness, we're reflecting the image of God.
Yeah. That God gives us the power to enable to reflect that human spark, just like you mentioned, right? Like we all carry this within us, right? When I think about what I think is so interesting, and one of the reasons I put this here today, was that in the Torah portion, we're focused on God's image. But God reflects God's image in a human image. But Tselem Elohim, the image of God, we often think about what are the attributes of what it means to be divine, or what it means to live inspired by the divine. God reflects back to Moses, though, human images. Face, hand, back. Right? So this interesting interplay between what it means to live in the image of God, that from God's perspective and from Moses's perspective, from the people's perspective, from our perspective of what it means to live in the image of God, I would venture to say, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I would venture to say that we don't often think, when we think of I'm creating the image of God, I don't immediately think about my hands, my back, and my face. I think about those potential attributes. I think about what does it mean to follow the mitzvot? What does it mean to live by Torah? What does it mean to have kindness and to find wholeness in the world? Like I'm thinking about all of the things to do. And by doing those and living in a certain way, I'm reflecting the image of God. From God, though, which I think is interesting, is what God reflects back are these forms that we know, that we feel, that we have. We are created, these things are created, right? But it's an interesting moment to stop and pause and to say, from our perspective, what does it mean to live in the image of God? What is God's perspective of reflecting back to Moses in a form and in a way that Moses can understand, because Moses can see it, feel it, and understand it? And is that giving us direction to say, when we are at our most reflective image of God is when we are most who we are, when we are acting in a way that is supremely human. From the richness and the goodness of humanity is when we actually are living truest to form. Okay? Capital F, not lowercase f, right? That's a really interesting suggestion from Kaplan too, right? That form, that image, depending on who's talking about it, whether it's the human, whether it's the divine, we're reflecting back what we see in that mirror. This is something to think about. Something to think about, yeah.
So quick story, can't top Marcia's story first. I was, I'm a big skier and I used to live in Colorado for a little bit, and one day I was coming down the mountain and it was a real tricky run. If you ever been skiing, you know, certain runs are like beep, 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 and then you're like, oh, that's a cliff, right? And I see this lady, she's got her skis wedged, but she's stuck. And I'm like, so I'm pretty good, and I go down, I'm like, are you okay? And she screams, I am not okay. My husband is here with this guy's trip, and he said, just left me here. And I was praying to God, someone come help me, and all of a sudden you're here.
Oh, wow.
And I went, well, let me help you get down. My dad, he grew up in Norway, and he was like, he taught me how to ski. He was a ski jumper and all that. So he was like a champion. So he taught me really young. So I helped her get down. I'm like, just watch, just mimic what I do. And I got her down, and she clicked off her skis. She goes, well, I'm never doing that again. I'm gonna go get a cocktail. I'm like, good for you. And she's like, and I know God sent me, so thank you. And then she just went away. So I felt like I did stuff for the day, but she actually said, I was praying that, so please help me, because it was a part of the run.
Yeah.
She actually wandered, and it was part where there was nobody.
That's a no-go for me.
Yeah.
That's a no. I'm like a
That's why I like.
beach water girl. You will not see me on snow skis. Okay. God is hiding in the world. Our task is to let the divine emerge from our deeds. That's Heschel.
Oh, wow.
God is hiding in the world. Our task is to let the divine emerge from our deeds. That's fabulous, right? Another way of stating what we experienced in the Parsha, of this image, this reflection of what it means when Moses saying, we need you out in front, right? We cannot actually picture goodness, it's not a being. It is a force, like electricity. Nobody ever actually saw electricity, but we can see and feel what electricity does. If we have an electric heater and connect it, we get heat. We get to know what electricity is by what it does. In the same way, we get to know what God is by what God makes us do. When people are, so to speak, connected with God, they do good things. We call those people godly people, and their acts godly acts. Whenever this force is active, we say that God has exercised influence and power. What, you're the Heschel person?
No, the thing is that, and this is off the topic, and Jack would get mad for being off the topic all the time, but I have two daughters, and one daughter does not see herself as, I mean, she's a Jewish person, but she's not actively involved in her Judaism. So she has some companions that she works with, and one person who professes to be such a special Jew, and is really a misguided, and so misguided, a miserable, mean, spirited person. So a couple of days ago, she couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, no.
And she exploded and said, "You hide behind your Judaism, but you really don't know how to be a good person, because you're rude and you're mean spirited." And I was so proud of her, but you know what? This was God speaking through her, and she just nailed it to him. And he said, "How could you say that to me?" And she said, "Because," and she gave him examples of how, and it's exactly, it's exactly what we're talking about. It's your image of God, and this guy is just such a hypocrite, hiding behind the mask of being a good Jew. And she let him have it. And I am so proud of her, because I have to now go back and explain to her that was God speaking through you, even though you don't see yourself as a godlike person.
Yeah.
That was God speaking through you.
Did that affect her job?
No, it had nothing to do with her job. He means nothing to her,
Nobody will affect.
but he represents Judaism. He represents a Jew to other people who are not Jewish, and she just couldn't take it anymore.
No, I understand that part. I was just wondering if it affected her.
No, it didn't affect anything. Hopefully not yet. No,
Okay. That's good.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What else? Any other reactions to this?
Affirmation.
Yeah, right? Feels good? Yeah.
Can't see goodness or picture, cannot picture goodness. Maybe that's how God also, doesn't really want to be seen, just goodness or a force or spiritual
Kindness.
kindness.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted us to talk about today with this focus on God and this interaction between Moses and God, especially when it comes to when we read this in Sukkot, is that Sukkot forces us to leave the comforts of our home, the security and the safety of our homes. These permanent dwellings that shield us from the outside world when we come into our private space. Sukkot asks us for 7 days to leave that space, to go out into the world, to construct a temporary structure that is susceptible to the elements. It is not supposed to be permanent. It's not supposed to last. The force wins. It's not supposed to be in perfect condition after the 7 days of being exposed. It also asks us to sit within this structure that is shielded by something that you can see through, to see the sky, to see those twinkling stars. And it is reminiscent of the cloud that hung over the Israelites in the desert when it showed that God was in our midst. There was that cloud that protected them. When we think about our own lives, and when we think about our reflecting the image of God outward, but also seeking that reflection within ourselves, when we allow ourselves to be exposed, vulnerable, and susceptible to all of those elements around us, it takes a tremendous amount of courage and strength to do that. And Sukkot reminds us of that. Sukkot also reminds us of the blessings that we currently have in our life. And to walk away from that for periods of time and to be out into the world where we're reminded that this temporary structure is not what we permanently live in. But it reminds us of the goodness that we have and the blessings that we have. So too with Moses. In this moment of vulnerability, in this moment of being exposed, that the people's fears and vulnerabilities exposed before God in constructing the golden calf. In this moment of fear and anxiety, out of that comes a very tender and intimate moment in which God and Moses are forced to have a very honest and vulnerable conversation with one another, and to learn something deeper about one another. Both the desire to see and to speak and to be in a deeper relationship with one another. What Sukkot reminds us and what this moment reminds us is that when we allow ourselves in certain moments of our lives to be vulnerable and fragile, it's in that moment that we can actually have the gift of being deeply connected and richly blessed by the relationships that we have with others, but also with ourselves. It doesn't always mean a relationship with others, it also can mean a more deeper connected relationship with ourselves. And Sukkot reminds us of that too, of our relationship with the divine. That it's out in the world, within those natural elements, when we look up and we look through the Sukkah, that we remind ourselves of that cloud, that protection, that Sukkot Shalom, that tranquility, that shelter that resides among us, within us, above us, and that we reflect that spark, that electricity between us and others, between us and ourselves. That is that divine energy that exists in the world, and so may we be ones that help spark that electricity and that energy by bringing goodness and righteousness and all those amazing attributes that we know of that bring us a life of compassion and goodness and wholeness. May we be those who help to